What are you looking at? Mm-hmm. We're on live.
Hey.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, thanks. How do you know we're live?
Because it says we're live right there.
Well, that's interesting. All right. Hello, everybody.
So we can see comments. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. Yeah, we're going live. See, it says 15 seconds. So hello, everyone.
Welcome to our second monthly Q&A talk.
Q&A with TNA.
Let's talk. Polly. I'm Andre.
And I'm Tara.
Of Tara
and Andre. We're terrible at it.
Yeah, frick, man. I'm glad this isn't a paid event. But anyway.
Hello. Hi, Jeff. Nice to see you. Thanks, everyone, for joining.
Hey, hi.
So we're here again today, Friday night. Happy Friday. So people ask us questions all the time.
You know what I just thought of? It's
what?
Friday night. In a way, like, thank God for COVID, because who else would join us on a Friday night for a Zoom talk or some shit? But anyway, let's still get that.
It's true, but it's opened up lots of opportunity for discussion. So if we can't have sex with all of our polyamorous friends, at least we can talk to them or talk about it.
Right. Okay. Yeah,
right?
let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Oh, hey, Jennifer. Nice to see you.
That makes me think of the question, if we can't have my bow tie, I tied it. So anyway, talking about whether we can have it or not. Oh, my tie is like, I feel like I want to take it off. Whether we can have sex or not. So in COVID, right, when it first started, researchers or speculators, whoever it was, thought that there might be a spike in babies and people having more and more sex. But it turns out, apparently, that might not be the case, that people might be having less sex, right? There's unfortunately increased domestic violence, but on the upside, are people having sex? And it seems as though, what are the stats? Maybe not so much?
There was lots of different studies. We actually did a bit of research, and there was lots of Jennifer saying your bow tie is amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, don't worry about your bow tie.
I took a long tie, and then I gave it to my mother, and she actually, she's an amazing designer and seamstress, whatever you want to call it, but she took two ties and put them together, and it's kind of cool. So it's recycled ties. So there used to be long ties, and I made them into short ties.
Yeah, and it's reversible too.
It's reversible too, yeah. So another time.
Anyway, lots of studies. We read lots of studies. So there's different opinions on if people are having more sex.
Are people having more or less sex?
Oh, well, maybe we should do a poll. Well, there's only 4 people on.
All right, well, let's ask the question then. So do you think that do we have that? Do you think that your sex, do you want to go into that? Do you think that you've been having more sex, less sex, about the same amount of sex, or are you having sex right now? Which would be wonderful, but...
Let's see. I'm activating the poll. Whoops.
You think it's truly for a poll?
Oh, there we go. Oh, look, it worked. That's so cool.
A first for us.
Anybody? Oh, it's gone. What did I do? Oh, one person said less. Oh, no. Anybody else?
What else? Can we answer that? So I would say that I think we are probably maybe having a little bit less sex than we would have. Well,
do you think so?
We're definitely having less sex with outsiders, right? People in the community, people we would have been having sex with otherwise.
Right.
Right? A lot of our friends we're not seeing. Well, friends outside of our country are not coming into our country, in Canada here. And even people in our own city, all the venues have been closed down, right? So the sex that we're having is primarily either with each other or by ourselves. Correct.
Because it's a little trickier to meet people during COVID. Unless you have like a sexy bubble, which is amazing if you do. Oh, it disappeared. The stay-at-home order with the kids was a buzz killer. Yep, sure is.
Oh, yeah. Well, even with the kids, that makes it like doubly so, right? I mean, now it's one thing if you have your own time, but then when you have the consideration of kids and they're nowhere to go, they can't drop them off at grandma's.
Mm-hmm. So why do you think people are having less sex during COVID? Like, you're at home, why not, right?
Yeah.
Other than the kids part. If you don't have kids, what's the thing?
Well, there's a couple of things at play, right? We fall into routines and we have stresses and we have all kinds of things. There's actually a few components to it.
For sure.
Do any of those come to mind? Do you know what they might be?
That's true.
What are some of the factors that might play into us having less sex?
Less sex, less desire. Well, less desire usually is what results in less sex. At least for me personally. I know I'm not always feeling the most sexual, and there's reasons for that. So some of the reasons. There's they say there's 6 reasons why you might have less desire.
Let's hear them.
For sex. Okay. Please put in the comments if you agree, disagree, if there's other ones. So one of them is body image. So feeling insecure about how you are in your body. So that could be an impact during COVID. Like some people said they've gained weight during COVID.
They're not getting
the COVID-20, not getting out and exercising as much.
So my feeling less about my body, whatever way it might be less or too much of or more, whatever it is, that consideration is going to influence my degree of desire?
Well, sure, it's a possibility. If you're not feeling sexy.
Yeah, how could it not? For
right.
Sure. That's understandable.
Yeah.
So what's the antidote to that?
What's the antidote?
Well, self-image, right? So either we can do something about it, exercising that, we can accept it, or we can try and validate ourselves. If we look outside for exterior validation, that's kind of faulty, right? Because if we don't get it, maybe it leaves us feeling wanting of. But if we can practice self-affirmations, if we can really appreciate it for who we are, what we are, that self-acceptance might then allow us to be participating more with our partners, right? We're not feeling as slight about ourselves.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
What else?
So another reason might be stress and anxiety. So that could be because maybe you're working from home, but you're also taking care of kids, like some people said. There's a lot more pressure for people, and it's hard to concentrate at home. So stress and anxiety can be a reason. If you have a lot of things on your mind, a lot of things on your to-do list, it's hard to feel desire or want desire. Mm-hmm. And then, if you do have a lot of things, what happens?
If you have a lot of things that you have to do during the day, like the kids and answering emails for work or whatever it is, well, then you end up most times addressing those things, trying to do those things, and you leave whatever might be left over at the end of the day for yourself to get with yourself or get with your partner or your play friends. But you're coming at it at the end of the day when you're already tired and depleted, and it's much less likely that you can have a glowing time about it. So it's kind of almost like the saving principle, right? So if I make $1 and I pay all my bills and I try to save whatever's left, well, I may or may not get anything in the savings, but I'm not really appreciating myself. Whereas if I take that $1 and I take the first 5 or 10% off and then live off the rest, well, I've prioritized myself, right? I put myself first. It's not always possible to put everything on hold. Sometimes the kids need it or whatever the circumstances are. But on occasion, we have to prioritize ourselves and not go at it and wait till the end of the night when we're completely exhausted.
Exactly. Right? Yeah. Somebody I know, not including names, might have fallen asleep the last few nights. So, I know me personally, if I'm tired, it's not like I get a bit lazy. But then on the other hand, I'm critical of myself sometimes. I'm like, why don't I have more desire? I should feel like it more. So yeah, so what are the things we kind of do? Well,
the boredom and the routine kind of play into that too. But even if you fall asleep, we still have some time to have some quality time, some exchange. But what's nice is that you woke me up this morning with a little morning surprise, which is always nice and welcome, right? We're a little bit more refreshed there. So just trying to break it up, some afternoon delight if possible.
I love afternoon delight.
So
I like planning time for sex.
Yes.
I guess sometimes it feels like it's a bit contrived, but then I think it's also kind of fun to decide that you're going to spend the afternoon just exploring and having fun and trying new things and pulling out the toys and doing all the things, right?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Jeff says morning sex. Yeah, wood morning.
Yes.
Wood morning.
Andre's greeting is not good morning, it's wood morning.
It's a beautiful thing.
Big fan of morning wood.
So let's stay on that. So
let's keep going. Okay. Yeah, stress and anxiety.
Stress and anxiety. Okay.
So sometimes it's
stress and anxiety. So to relieve and alleviate the stress, maybe give each other a massage. Give yourself a massage, right? More self-love. Gentlemen. And those who are not yet, that's such a sexist comment. I'm gonna catch it for that. I know I'm trying to retract my gentleman statement, but I was gonna say, for those of you who don't practice enough self-care, like a bath or something like that, see if you can take some time to appreciate, do those little things for yourself that make you feel relaxed and sexy. They help to alleviate some of that stress.
And if you're not feeling like up for sex right away, like what about doing something like reading some erotica? I like your idea of massage, like warming up. Like sometimes like doing some touch. Like we've been doing a bit of like sensei touch. I don't know if people have heard of that. Where
Tell us, what is sensei touch?
Oh gosh, you're gonna make me do it. Did we talk about this last time?
We probably did, but let's hear it again.
Sensei touch is it's sort of a stage progressive touching, I guess you could say, and it's often used for people who where there's sex desire issues, imbalance of desire, or someone not feeling like they want to have sex, or feeling pressure to have sex, or any of those things.
Exactly, any of those things. So basically, as you said, it's kind of like, I'm sorry, but this isn't working right. It's kind of like you're putting the reset button, right? So what happens is we want to kind of, we might have in some ways become desensitized, and by doing this sensei touch, it's going to reset, recalibrate. So it kind of like, we take a break, we start over from zero. So instead of going straight to whatever it is that we might be doing now, we're going to resist that, and we're going to start at the very basics. So we might agree to do touch, but we're not going to necessarily have it end in scoring a touchdown. What we're going to do is we're simply going to touch areas. Well, at the very sensate one is we're not even going to touch erogenous zones. We're going to just touch each other in all of the areas but. And what it does very often is it will alleviate the stress of thinking that, where we're having to go. And it makes us appreciate, makes us to come back in the present. And that's actually no better than before. And anyway, so we practice that for a while, and then we kind of graduate to another point where then we start to incorporate more sensual touch and
more erogenous zones. But the idea is not to have orgasm in that interaction. I think the idea is you could do it yourself, but the first stage is just touching non-erogenous zones, and just enjoying the pleasure of the feeling. It's actually really nice to do for a change if you haven't done it. Unfortunately, sometimes we're not very good at sticking to it because it is so great to focus on the touch. So sometimes I think we've started with the intent of doing that, and then have resulted in other things.
Right.
Anyway. So
so you need discipline to stay on the step, on the phase that you're on.
Yeah, I think a lot of times in therapy, like when people are coming to therapy, like sex therapy for some sort of issue like erectile dysfunction, or would you stop it with the tie?
It's bothering me because it's so not on.
It's crooked now.
It's totally crooked.
Oh my God.
Okay, so anyway, come on, let's go back. So.
Okay. I want to go through this quickly because people have other questions. So does anybody have questions?
There's some good things in the chats, about external communication and interactions. Yes, we are definitely missing that, right? So that's a big stimuli that we're able to normally go outside and get some type of charge, some type of interaction, bring it back in with our other partners, and it's
have that variety.
Yeah, exactly. It stimulates, right?
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go quickly through the other.
Depression, another one. Thank you, Jennifer. Yeah, absolutely.
She said the COVID-19.
Yeah,
so not the 20, the 19.
That's the way. Yeah, well, I think I've found the other one or two.
Oh my God.
Depression. That's another part that come up. So certain medications might adversely affect us, right? So a lot of what's being prescribed to offset depression, unfortunately, does have some sexual side effects. But there are advancements in certain drugs that will have fewer side effects, including some of those. So talk to your doctor about it and find out what the alternatives are, and be aware of that, and then work within those parameters, right?
Monotony. Yes. I can't say that word. Monotony.
It becomes monotonous.
Monotonous. Yes. the same over and over again.
Well,
so
the
it's
routine, that's a killer too, right? So we go position 1, 2, and 3, and that's it. And it's like,
yeah. So trying new things.
well, how can you mix it up? How can you make it more predictable, right? Can you resist doing it or resist what you would normally do, how you do it, and do it in some other way? Turn that thing upside down.
Yeah,
Do
that's
whatever
why
you can.
the sensate touching is kind of cool, because it's something you might not normally do. So more foreplay. I think as we get used to each other, we forget sometimes we forget the foreplay part. I think like mainstream porn also like skips that step sometimes, and so that's the third one is media. So depictions of sex in the media or porn, or like what it means to be a good lover. So sometimes that's one of the things that the common roadblocks to sex is we have this belief that it should be a certain way.
Sure.
One of the other common ones. Sorry, were you going to say something?
As far as media, I was just thinking, when we first engage with people, there's a lot more flirting, and then at some point it becomes like, that flirting part is often overlooked, which is unfortunate because it's fun, it's titillating, right? It draws us in. So can we find a way to be flirtatious again? Can we, reinvent that flirtation?
Really? What are you doing after this talk?
That's kind of flirtatious right there, yeah. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, like even dressing up, like I'm dressed up tonight and I feel, it makes me feel sexy. I'm even wearing shoes. Like Andre's like, you're wearing shoes? And I'm like, yeah, I'm wearing shoes because nobody can see it on screen. I'm wearing a little dress and shoes and little fishnet tights.
I'm lucky if I wear pants, but today I'm wearing long pants and socks.
Socks that match your tie.
So that's pretty impressive, right?
That's
Socks
pretty
and tie.
impressive.
Yeah, for sure.
So another common...
I'm sorry. You know what's also really nice about dressing up? Getting undressed.
Ooh, yes. Yes. It's what's under there. So, yeah. So I think that helps.
What's under there? Nice little fishnets. Okay.
Thank you. Okay.
Where were we? Media. All right. So
media.
the media. So what about the media? So you look on Insta or you look on whatever it is, and you see the finest parts. And this is everybody knows this, right? The knock on Facebook is that all you're projecting is the best of the best, and then you take that in, and you often feel as though your life doesn't measure up, right? That they're bigger, stronger, fatter, wonderful, better, whatever it might be,
sexier,
fitter, you're not going to
thinner,
be quite as great by comparison, right? So compare and despair. So see if you're able to interrupt that, nip that shit in the bud.
So another one is shame. So some people still hold in their adult lives shame associated with maybe how they grew up or how sex was characterized in their, in their growing up. And
so wait a second. So you're telling me that shame is going to affect my level of intimacy, my drive and desire? How would shame possibly do that? How are my good religious background, upbringings, and cultural mores going to possibly affect my acting like the dirty whore I am?
Because it's embedded in our belief system. And even if we've grown out of it, it doesn't have to necessarily be religion either. It could just be, sex may be hidden, or, this idea that sex only happens in marriage, or sex is only to procreate, right. Or, only having one partner.
But let me
monogamy.
Ask you, so I wasn't raised in a religious background at all. My parents are fairly progressive. If it's wrong in any way, does that kind of add to the hotness? Does that taboo add to it for you, or?
Well, maybe for some people.
Yeah?
Is it a taboo that I was growing up as a Catholic girl?
No, but when you wore your little Catholic schoolgirl costume, that was pretty hot. I mean, that. Meow.
Yes, society's belief about what relationships should be like, for sure. I think it's called caring what others think. Yes. Right. Yeah, so exactly.
Makes me think of You've Come a Long Way, Babe. So is it still, as a woman, do you find that you are still kind of slut shamed, or given this idea that you're, not supposed to, or that it's,
I don't know. I guess I've sort of spent a lot of time working myself and not, like you said, caring what others care about. I mean, I certainly... I guess I still worry about what my family thinks about me and that, but any of the friends that I have know what's going on with me, and Jeff just wrote, agreed on the school uniform.
Yeah, we'll see if we can
dig that out. Yeah, I mean, I think the people we hang around with now in this community and like in real life as well are, this is part of their life as well. And so I don't feel slut shamed. I guess I feel a little, maybe still a little unsure. Like I know, I updated my LinkedIn profile and I created a page for our coaching, and I was like feeling like I need to be careful about what I put on there in terms of the type of coaching I do and the support I do, because I thought people would be judging me. But anyways, I left it as is, but people, if they go to our website, are going to find out. So I'm kind of like...
What might the judgment be? What are they going to think? What are they going to say?
I don't know. Well, people bring to it their own beliefs as well. So would you stop playing with your tie?
Go on.
So people bring their own beliefs as well. So I guess it's whether or not you're okay with the fact that someone might not agree with your way of life. And I mean, I'm comfortable with what I'm doing, and so. Mm-hmm. But
I almost at times feel like it's almost like my mission that we should go out there and hopefully not preach, but really talk about it, and hopefully get to the point where we normalize it, that it becomes very mainstream, that we might, any choice, all choices should be individual, and it is in no way wrong or considered in any way morally deficient or otherwise, that we are simply wanting to express ourselves, our true selves, in whatever form pleases us. Mm-hmm. Always with consent and respect, of course.
Of course. But it's true. I just thought of something. When you go onto like online dating apps and stuff like that, sometimes there's questions you have to answer, and there's like, how many partners is too many partners, or would you be okay with somebody that has more partners?
Well, that's an interesting question. How many partners is too many? So that already sets it up in the mind frame that there's going to be a number that's going to be too many. Why should there be a number that's too many?
I don't know.
Right.
Anybody? I don't think there's a number that's too many.
Well,
I think as long...
You and I are sluts, but how many, how does it ever become, connected to some form of morality or some form of like estimation that that's too many?
Yeah, like 2's okay, 5's okay, 10's okay. Like when does it, 50's okay, 1,000's okay?
10,000.
10,000's okay. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But it is a question that's on the dating apps, and some of them, not all of them, but I have seen that, and I have heard, like I've seen in some of the other, not a number, but what feels safe with COVID. That's true. That's especially true now.
Yeah, these are different considerations, absolutely.
But I have seen in some of the poly groups, someone asking how many partners is okay to have, and I was like, my answer was, well, how many are you comfortable with? You know what I mean? Balancing at one time. I think that's more the consideration.
My the criteria for partners was hopefully always that whoever I was with, I was loving them and they were loving me. And I wouldn't want to limit the number of love participants or the amount of love that I received or was able to give. The number seems irrelevant. What's the quality of the relationship, right? Being with one person for your only existence doesn't mean that it was a good, loving, caring relationship just because of the number attached to it, right? Yeah,
I kind of, polyamory allows us to love so many people, and I kind of love that about it.
Right.
What were you gonna say? I'm sorry. I feel like I interrupted you.
I had asked you before about the idea of we were talking about the shame and all that, and it goes right back to that number. And I remember hearing that when you would ask a woman, this is kind of dating myself, but when you would ask a woman how many partners she might have had, that you'd always have to multiply it by a certain factor, that a woman would never divulge how many partners she truly had because somehow she wasn't, who knows what the rationale behind that was, somehow it was not going to be held in favor, right? Which those archaic beliefs, and hopefully they are being dispelled.
Yeah, I probably had a number at some point. I think I've lost track. That's terrible.
I'm just wondering if it's 4 or 5 digits.
I don't know.
Do you stop counting after 69?
So people who, you guys don't know Andre that well, but often will be like driving somewhere or somewhere and be like, oh, I banged a girl in this neighborhood, or I dated a girl in this neighborhood, or...
I don't say I banged. I would never say that.
Okay, you don't say bang.
I say I happen to have known somebody who lived here.
It's like, I dated someone in this neighborhood. Oh yeah, I used to date a girl in this neighborhood. Oh, I used to date everywhere we go.
It's always the same place. I just drive you in circles.
Is that what you do?
Pretty
okay.
much.
So the last one of the 6 things, this took a long time to get through this list.
Are we done?
Well,
no.
Well, we talked about health and medication
already. Did we talk about trauma?
We haven't talked about trauma. So the last one is trauma.
So trauma could affect my level of desire or experience. How so? How's trauma going to affect?
So you could have had some sort of abuse in your life.
Yeah.
There could be certain things that trigger that, and so yeah.
So what do we do about that?
Well, I mean, the thing that you always say is
we talk, right?
About it.
Right. So
communicate it.
Find a caring, loving friend, partner, whoever, participant, and talk to them. And also encourage you to talk to somebody who's trained in trauma. Right?
For sure.
Speak to them about it.
Yeah, because there may be things you still need to work through. I think a lot of times we deny them or forget them. We were talking about something actually today, and I asked you, I can't even remember what it was. I asked you if you had blocked something out, and you were like paused actually for a second.
Yeah, I'd never thought about it as being a possibility, and you're absolutely correct. Yeah, I had a hard time remembering a significant moment, and it didn't seem as though it was that traumatic to me. But you asked, and I think very insightfully, whether or not I was blocking it out, and was there some trauma attached to it perhaps? And upon reflection, yeah, quite possibly. So the idea is that we talk about it, right? We talk about it, and it helps us to process, and we gain clarity. So communication by far the most important thing.
Yeah, and like Jennifer just posted, so important to communicate that. I used to think it was not important to tell my partners. Yeah, I think I agree. I totally agree.
Right.
It's totally important. If you feel comfortable, and hopefully you're with people that you feel comfortable to share that information with.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, you know the whole tickling thing with me.
No, tell us.
So I really don't. I'm really sensitive about being tickled under my arms, and so I actually, you know this.
Go ahead, tell me.
I actually physically recoil a bit, and I have a fear of it because when I was a kid, 2 friends of mine actually, they knew I was ticklish, and they actually held me down and like on the front lawn of my friend's place and like basically tickled me till I was crying. And it was so...
Did you pee your pants?
I did not pee my pants, but it was so traumatic. It was actually really traumatic.
You peed your pants a little bit?
I didn't pee my pants a little bit. Maybe I did. I don't remember. I've blocked that out if I did. But seriously, so now it's very hard. Like I feel very vulnerable when I have my underarms exposed because I'm worried that I'm going to be tickled.
Right. And one of my kinks is I have a thing for underarms, right? So it's interesting. I've completely blocked out this story that you had that. Maybe I didn't want to hear that, but I'm glad that I've heard it this time. Yeah, I've got a thing for your underarms, and when I go to touch you, you often still recoil, right? So that's maybe a trauma that we might be able to work on. I'm not wanting to tickle you, but you anticipate that association, and it makes you recoil, understandably so. So why don't we perhaps try some Sensate on that?
That's a good idea.
Yeah, let's see if we can take our own advice, and we'll see if we can start off with some slow, gentle thing. And what's really great about that is that we will communicate it through. So you'll tell me, we'll do just like we would with any other kind of play. You'll have some safe word, and you'll also have some descriptors to let me know where the temperature is on that, and we'll go at it. Could be fun.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The beauty of working through these things and being patient with play partners or friends, whoever it is that the more comfortable they feel, the more they're going to be wanting to participate and do all kinds of wonderful things like that. So, sometimes going slowly and resetting and recalibrating and fine-tuning and processing all that stuff is for a very good reason, because it yields a lot of benefits. So, yeah. go at it with love and exploration, curiosity.
Yeah.
What else you got? Trauma?
Well, and then we had health and medication, but I think we talked about that one.
And any other thing that people put in the comments, like about depression, right? So.
Yeah, so that's cool.
So that's what some of the things that might have been in play with this, and then the freaking boredom, the monotony of COVID, right? Just that same old thing. But I think that this is great that we connect this way as well, right? People are able to interact. Could you imagine what it was like for people in past generations when they had to do things, when they were not able to be with friends and loved ones, and they were just, sending a letter in a bottle, and it would take like 3 months to get there. So we're lucky, very, very fortunate. Okay.
All right.
So we had some questions.
So
boredom, yes.
Boredom.
I'm hoping it's gonna pass. All right. So
yeah. So you feel free to add questions in the chat, but I'll go through some of the questions that came through. So one of them was.
Let me see. One of them from was that from Genevieve in Wichita? No, that's from
Syme in Melbourne, who's probably not on today because he's probably it's like 16 hours.
Yeah, what time is it now? It's 8 now.
So we had a really good question, I think, that a lot of people ask, which was, what are good ways for thirds who begin a relationship with someone in an established couple not to feel inferior or the bit on the side?
So from the question of the added on, right? So there's a couple, an established couple, and how does the third participant not feel?
So okay. I don't know if he meant necessarily that that he would be joining the couple, but that he was with one of the partners that's in an established coupled relationship. Right. And so how do you feel like not feel inferior, or that you're just like the person on the side?
Right. Well, I think this consideration goes beyond just being the third, right? There's many possibilities, but let's hear what we came up with, right? So we talked a little bit
we did talk about this one a little bit.
So what did we say? Well, first of all, we're definitely welcoming what you might have to say about it, and thoughts and comments as always. But here's what we came up with. We said that first we want to determine our own wants, needs, and desires and motives.
Yeah.
Right.
First.
So what's all that mean?
And I think, before we go on to that, okay. I think that's the thing also when you're starting a polyamorous relationship, is that you want to take a look at, like, why do you want to do this? If you're in a coupled relationship, or if you're solo, like, why is it that you want to have potentially multiple relationships? Like, what are your wants?
What's at play? Yeah.
What's your needs, desires? And then you had your motives.
Well, I think we're going to see that later on when we ask that other question, but yeah.
Okay, sure. So, but in this case, that's something you would want to look at.
Right. So your wants, your needs,
and your desires.
And your motives.
Okay, and your motives.
Well, I guess the motives come clear when you ask those questions. But yeah, so you want to try and get in touch with what it is that you're wanting from this, what your expectations might be. Are they, in fact, realistic? What are the pros and cons of it? And then you want to find out
what theirs are.
What the other people or person is wanting, right?
Yeah.
And again, how do we find out all that information? Talk, right?
Communicate.
Open communication, key.
Yeah. So finding out what it is they want out of the relationship and understanding how you might fit in that. Because it could be that there's a match, and it could be that they want just someone on the side, and maybe that's not what you want.
Right. I mean, there's benefits, I suppose, to letting it just develop organically. It's kind of mysterious, and it just flows.
For sure.
And often that is the case. But in talking about it beforehand, if you're able to, and you start to get, the more you talk about it, the more comfortable you get, but you can really avoid a lot of the pitfalls and misunderstandings, right? So you come into it with a clear understanding. Information is power. It's key, right? You get to know and where you're at, where they're at, find out what common ground you have that overlaps, and where there is a distance in the things you're wanting and not wanting.
For sure. It's like, do they want a long-term friend? Do they just want a play partner? Like, do you want a relationship?
A lot of it might not be known yet, but at least you're having a dialogue about it, right? And then you invite always to consent about talking and finding out where you're and checking in and finding out, is this working for you and how's it going?
Well, and there's the common like thing that people say is what that a couple might be looking like if it's where they're wanting someone to join them, someone's looking for a unicorn.
Right.
And like while that may be something that somebody wants, they might want to be that one special person for a couple. It may not be what you want, and that may leave you unsatisfied.
Right.
That sort of thing. So understanding what it is that they want. So communication always seems to be the answer.
It is. Keep talking.
Okay, so Michelle asked, this is a good question as well. I think we've had this a couple times. On many sites, poly is seen as purely a fuck buddy thing, or that you are looking for a taboo, secret relationship or want to cheat on somebody. How do I weed out people with this mindset? I don't want just a fuck buddy or to be the dirty little secret. And then they were saying that they're open and honest with their partner about their activities.
So Michelle's saying that when she has on her dating profile, if she puts out that she's polyamorous, that she's going to attract a certain crowd. People are going to think she's just wanting to hook up, or that she's what's the term that we use when people are slutty? What's the term? That she's it's at a loss at the moment. Regardless, so
I'm slutty.
How do we? But promiscuous. That's
promiscuous.
It. And you might be very well promiscuous and slutty, but you might not either, right? So the two aren't necessarily directly linked, right? Being polyamorous is many things to many people. So how do you avoid attracting all of these? Jennifer says so common. Yeah, I'm sure it is. So how do you avoid attracting all that? What can Michelle do?
I mean, I think there's lots of options. Personally for myself, on my profiles, I do put that I'm in an open relationship, so people do know that up front. But having said that, I think what does happen is what Michelle says, is people who are maybe not familiar with polyamory might assume that means that
you're just going to spread it for anybody and do it.
Yeah, you're just the first thing, like their first interaction with you is like, oh hey baby, wanna hook up, or like they immediately jump to the sex part of the discussion. So that's my cue usually to like jump right out.
Right.
But I think it's hard to avoid it. I mean, you could not put that you're polyamorous. I think you had that experience.
So when I put that on polyamorous, I get a lot of flack when from people saying like, one, either I'm too immature for a real relationship, or that, what am I afraid of, or am I just wanting to screw everybody? And I may want to screw everybody, but I may not either. But that's not what it is truly about, right? So I kind of avoid putting it on polyamorous. And I say that I'm looking for not just a hookup. Well, here's my thing. I'm into hookups, but I'm not looking just for a hookup, and I'm not looking for monogamous marriage either. I'm looking for something in between. I'm looking for a connection. So for me to put in that I'm calling myself polyamorous, for many people on some sites, it will not really tell them exactly what I'm looking for. So in short time, and when I'll come back to that. But in Michelle's case, it might be helpful if she were to say that she's looking for a relationship, and then very soon, once they make the connection, let the other person know what kind of relationship. Well, I'm looking for a relationship that is open to seeing other people. I'm looking for a relationship that is not exclusive, whatever it might be. And that might kind of eliminate some of the people who are just looking for what she's not looking for.
But do you think it might deter people who are polyamorous from connecting with her, because they're like, because sometimes I think when people say relationship, they don't like, relationship has a really broad definition to us, but to other people they think, if somebody says they want to be in a relationship, that
right, that it's going to be overwhelming. It's going to be this monogamous relationship. Well, absolutely. I've actually clicked off of some that have said that and look like they're wanting that too. So, again, we're not going to know exactly, but if I see enough interest in that, then I will explore it, and I'll, in short time, let it be known what kind of relationship I'm looking for. So yes, you say you're looking for a relationship. I'm looking for a relationship as well. But this is the type of relationship that I'm looking for, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, in those most of those dating websites, they don't give you a chance to say what type of relationship.
Oh, Jennifer's saying it's interesting to hear that from the male perspective. This is something my partner feels keeps him from having more opportunities. Yeah, unfortunately, I think if a guy, unfortunately, someone who's male presenting, like you said, male presenting, says that, they're polyamorous, I think it can be taken with a bit of people are not sure,
Right.
They might say, "Oh, are you really married? Are you really?"
But it almost feels a bit like slut shaming, because I've
It's
had
true.
some female presenting people tell me that it's like all you were looking for is like a hookup, or you're not, basically like you're not mature enough to have a relationship, or when are you going to grow up, or I mean and some people have been like kind of mean about it.
Yeah, it depends on the site too. I not to promote any particular site, but I find that there's certain ones that are better. I find better and more comfortable for me, and where people understand more about how it works in terms of what polyamory is, and open relationships, and
Yeah, for
ethical
sure.
non-monogamy, and Field, for example, our we're connected, so people know that there's a relationship and there's two people attached to it, but that we're open to other things, and we're just clear about how we navigate that. We date separately and together,
Right.
and yeah. So it's tricky.
Was that an advertisement? Are you putting the word out there?
Always advertising. Well, we love all these sexy, lovely people that are in our groups.
Yeah,
They're
no doubt.
awesome.
For sure. Calling out.
So,
What else do you want
I
to
don't
say,
think we
Michelle?
have a good, clear answer to that one.
Well,
I think
no,
it's
but no, I think the answer is kind of clear. Again, find out what it is you're wanting, and then communicate that. Find out what the other person's wanting, and you'll get that by communicating. So again, it always comes back to the three.
Yeah.
Talk.
It's hard. It is hard to find people though, and especially
yeah,
now.
for sure.
Now is kind of like a shitty time.
Well, it is and it isn't, because look at the opportunity. If it wasn't for this COVID, I don't think we'd have met all of
I
you wonderful
know.
people, right?
I know. It's kind of crazy.
And it does a reset. It's almost like the sensei in the dating world, because now we're back reflecting, and when we do come out to play again, it's going to be a whole different perspective, a different appreciation for it. So shitty time, yes, and opportunity. Again, always the possibility for opportunity.
Yeah, I think we've learned a lot and talked a lot over this past
Always
year,
learning.
wouldn't you
There's
say?
so much learning. Yes.
I feel like it's been a huge year. It was a huge year of growth. We're almost coming up on a year since we started our first group. Was in March,
It's
end
amazing.
of March.
It's
I
a
think.
blink of an eye, and it's like a decade. It's such a weird time warp.
Yeah, I feel like I'm forever changed, but kind of for the better. Okay. So thank you, Michelle, for that question. That was great. I don't know if she's on, but you'll see the replay, so that's awesome. Okay, Laura Sanchez.
Hola, Laura.
Hola. So Laura asks, how do you manage the left out feeling and also the envy when your partner has a relationship and you don't?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Laura.
So in this case, they're both dating separately. I think in her case she's probably married, could be married. I mean, it could be any situation for somebody, but this does come up. Even it comes up with people who aren't married. So you're in some sort of partnered relationship, and your partner has somebody right now, and maybe you don't, and they're feeling a bit left out.
A little FOMO.
A little, it could be FOMO. It could be something else. So that's that. I guess that's the question, is to figure out is first, right?
Right. So what are you feeling left out of?
Yeah. Yeah.
And is that sort of indicating something perhaps a little bit deeper, right? So are you solid in your primary relationship or other relationships? And then does that feeling of being left out kind of indicate something else? Are you feeling secure in it? But go ahead.
Or is it just the fact that
Right.
they're having fun
Exactly.
and you're happen to be at home at that time? And I think that's like a common thing. That happens to us too. There's times where you've got a regular partner and I don't, and vice versa. And I mean, you can feel a bit left out.
Right.
So,
And I think that it's wonderful when we are able to tell each other that we're feeling that way, right? Mm-hmm. But it's also wonderful when we don't have to tell each other, and the other person might check in. So I'm not saying that we have to be responsible for the other person's feelings or that you have to babysit them, but it is nice to know that you do check in with me to find out how I'm doing, and I like to think that I do that with you as well.
yeah.
Sounds
I
like
don't
that
believe
communication.
Yeah, I don't believe that you know there's sometimes there's some myths of polyamory that like you need to deal with your own shit on your own and how you feel about your jealousy or feeling left out. But I don't totally 100% subscribe to that. I feel like there's room in there to have a dialogue with the person about what it is you need and if there's something that's missing for you. So it might be that you're just feeling like, damn, I wish I was on a date too, but I'm not. But it could be something, if you're feeling insecure. And if it's feeling insecure, I think it's something that, I would want to look at within myself first and why I might be feeling that way. And then like have a discussion, like what is it I need to feel not insecure, I guess, or less insecure, or be able to deal with it, because you can't completely avoid feeling jealous sometimes. I don't think. I think there's always a little bit of something. I don't think you'd be human if you didn't feel like a little bit jealous sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. And I remember not long ago you went on a date and I felt kind of jealous, and the initial part was kind of off-putting, but at the same time it kind of tickled me in a perverse way to think that like my jealousy kind of excites me to think that like I'm wanting to like have you in a sense, not in a hopefully not in a shitty ownership way, but the idea that it shows me my emotional attraction to you in a sense.
Yeah, like I'm still attracted to you because I feel jealous. If you didn't feel anything at all, you might want to go like, Possibly. What is that about?
Although I'm pretty secure, I rarely get jealous, but sometimes I do, and it's of interest too. But you acknowledge the feeling, and then hopefully be able to go past that. You had mentioned something interesting though about the idea of when your play friend, partner, whoever it might be out doing their own thing. What are you doing?
Yeah.
So could you do some self-care? Might you do something that is not always as convenient?
Yeah, something that you might want to do that you don't normally do.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, indulge yourself. Have fun.
Yeah, indulge yourself, treat yourself
to something.
Just
have a date with yourself.
Actually, a friend of mine.
That sounds like something I would never do.
I know, but my friend of mine did this for Valentine's Day. She got dressed up.
They had a date by themselves.
She had a date with herself. She got all ready and dressed up and made herself a beautiful meal and played nice music.
Lovely.
And she said it felt very awkward doing that and like stating, and then she publicly stated that she did this.
Right.
And cool. She said it was the most amazing evening, and it was just like a good renewing of like feeling full and like I can do these things.
Maybe I should give it a try. Maybe I'll go home and sensate myself.
You can do that too, actually.
Oh, yeah,
that's pretty nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of touching and sensations and paying attention to it. We did that one night. Remember I was leaving your place that one night, and I don't know, I was putting my shoes on the floor, and you were standing near me, and I was doing your legs.
Yeah.
And it was very, like, for me, it felt really interesting because I've never sat on the floor and done that to your legs and then to your feet, right. And I think you were like loving it.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, it was erotic without necessarily being sexually erotic in some ways, right? Yeah, and there was no, the evening had concluded. There was no expectation of, but it was very sensual and very sensory.
So I think one of the things I do when you're on a date, it doesn't really bother me as much as it maybe used to before, is I'll make myself a great dinner. I'll watch some sort of movie that I know that you would never watch with me, like all this crazy shit.
And, I find myself wanting to check in with you, not because I feel like I owe you or you're not going to be okay, but just to let you know that I'm out having a really good time, but I'm not also, I've not just forgotten about you. Sometimes when I'm out, I'm often thinking about you more than you might realize.
And same.
Right?
Same.
Fun.
Yeah. I think we make stories up in our head about what's going on, and it's often not true.
Right.
So.
But jealousy can be a real thing.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, and it can be a big monster for sure. But again, you got to talk about it. Be honest about how you are feeling and what's going on with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And breathe. Try not to talk from a point of being heated. Mm-hmm. Calm down for a moment, and then,
Oh, yeah.
And speak from the position of I, right? So when we say you, it's accusatory. You do this and that, but we try to speak from I and me.
Yeah, when this happens, I feel like this.
Or I think that, or
Yeah.
So
anyway, so hopefully that answer was helpful.
Yeah, where were we?
Okay, we were on feeling left out.
Oh, yes.
Nikki asked how to balance time between your mono husband and ensure they feel that they're getting enough time with you and are comfortable with a new polyamorous situation, while also ensuring a new partner does not feel like they are on the back burner.
The balancing act.
The balancing act. So I think in this case, I had to shorten the question. In this case, I think it's a newly polyamorous relationship. I think one partner is poly, one is mono, and it's sort of about balancing the time between the husband, who's mono, and a new partner that, you might have some, that you want to spend time with, and how to
Interesting. Immediately, it makes me think of the idea of hierarchy or anarchy, right?
So tell us about that.
Well, I mean, it depends on the type of relationship we have, right? So are we nesting partners? Are we married? Do we have some type of hierarchy that we follow? Or are we determined to not have any of that and treat everybody exactly the same? Mm-hmm. Right. So if you are already coupled, then the considerations, I imagine, would be different than if you are, say, solo poly, right? Mm-hmm. So if you already have a partner and you are invested in maintaining some type of relationship, then you would want to perhaps have that dialogue and consider what is going to work for us. What's that balance going to be? How can we incorporate this new part while still maintaining whatever we have, or modifying it to the point where we're both feeling comfortable with it? Again, let's talk about where we're at and what's going to work and what's not going to work.
Right, and I think it's more difficult. I think there's more challenges. It's not it's every challenge is you can deal with, but when one partner decides that they would like to stay monogamous, so they are not going to have other partners, but they're okay, and depends on the degree.
Maybe even encouraging, who knows?
Or encouraging for the other person to be poly. So I think the thing that we were talking about is sometimes this happens and someone's like, okay, I just want you to be happy, you go do what you want. But then I wonder, sometimes if you've had sort of the full, open, honest conversation about how this might work, what would their needs be in this relationship, the mono person's needs, what would yours be, and how do you kind of make that all, work together? And then there's also the new partner as well.
Right. But, that also makes me think about the very basis of consent, right? So you're going to talk about it and find out what works and what doesn't work for you. And are the other people on board? Are you going to be able to get it that way? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, I mean, if you haven't had those conversations already, I think I would suggest that, you have them and see where the comfort level is. And it might be a matter of scheduling things in, sometimes we even schedule, we're both polyamorous, but I think sometimes we like to know when things are happening in advance so we can make other plans. So if you're going to have a date next Tuesday, I might say, okay, well, maybe I'll have a date, or maybe I'll plan to go see a friend that day.
So what do you think is better? Let's say I'm having a date or want to have a date. Mm-hmm. Is it better that I announce it, or do I ask you, or do I need to ask you? I mean, it almost sounds like, I'm asking for permission, or do I just come out and say, I have a date?
Well, I think in different people's relationships, I think they have to decide what's going to work for them, right? For us, I don't feel like we're asking permission when we're doing it. It's I think I check in, though, with you to see, make sure that we didn't have other plans, that I've forgotten, because that's always a possibility.
So, yeah.
And also, like, kind of give you advance notice. Like, hey, I'm thinking I'd like to go out on a date on Tuesday. Does that work for you?
Right. So I know of a poly family, and they have actually, like, the kitchen table, and they have a calendar on the fridge where they come and they write, whatever it is they're wanting, and it's basically first come, first serve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some people get really, like, people who have, like, polycules get really technical, use Google Calendar and that sort of thing, so people know where people are and that sort of thing. And that's cool if that works for you. I think that the idea is, like, what is going to work for you, and just making sure there's open, honest communication all the way through. Right. And then knowing that you can also go back and continue to have these conversations and check in. So a partner might say, okay, just go ahead and do this. I'm fine. I'm not going to see anybody, but you go ahead and have fun. And then, a couple weeks, a month down the line, they may think, oh, maybe this isn't working for me, or maybe this is too frequent, or that sort of thing. Or they may say, okay, let's go ahead with this, but maybe once a week is good to start, or once every 2 weeks. And then you might be able to revisit those things. It's,
Right. So check in with your partners or your thirds or fourths, whoever it is, and find out where it's going.
And right? Making sure it works for everybody. Like the new partner as well is a person. Like, just because they're not part of the couple, it doesn't mean that their needs and wants and desires aren't important.
Of course. But what's really great about checking with the other person is that you are inviting them for the dialogue, as opposed to if something is not quite going well with them, right, then they have to feel like they have, have to bring it up. Yeah. And maybe it doesn't necessarily. What's that thing that says new tip there? So,
I don't know.
So you're kind of inviting the dialogue, and you might not get the answer you want, but I think at least brings them to the table and helps them communicate, as opposed to if something isn't going quite well for me, then how do I bring that up? And hopefully I feel comfortable enough. But if I don't, being invited to talk about it is I think much more considerate and healthier.
Yeah, and people's feelings can change over time. I know I've had clients in the past where they had decided to open up things, and then they kind of went really fast, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, whoa, this is like way too much, too fast. I think we need to like slow down, take a look again, look at our boundaries again. Maybe we need to shift what we're doing. Right. So if you set those times in place, then I think,
But that always goes back to like one of the biggest cornerstones, the biggest axioms of being in this, and that's about consent, right? So what might have worked for me in the past is not automatically assumed to be working for me now. At any time, I can retract my consent and say, this isn't working for me, and we need to stop or modify or talk about whatever it is. So we need to be able to really be in tune with the people we interact with on so many levels.
For sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I see Andrew's here. Hi, Andrew. Oh my God. So nice to see you. Okay, I'm going to read his, because he's kind of got a question.
Okay.
So, hi, looking great. Thank you. Thanks for all the content. We'd be interested in your thoughts on how COVID has seen sexy social circles really constrict and in-person friendship relationships atrophy after not seeing many people for a year now. Natalie and I are mourning a lot of connections lost, which hopefully will, but may not be there post-pandemic. Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
So first of all, I want to say that that we would still love to continue connecting with you, and I think with anybody that we've been connected through before. I think, my personal feeling is that anyone I was connected to before, I'm very happy and excited to connect with on a continuous basis. I think, like some people we know have created smaller social, bubbles, circles, in order to continue like connecting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking about the mourning part of it, right? There's a sadness to it. There's a loss. There's a void that was created. So we were part of this community. We fall in love with each other, and then all of a sudden the tsunami comes, and it's like, whoa! As of Friday the 13th, you are, ripped in a sense from each other, and it's like a sudden death. It's like, wow, like, that void is large, right? It's you know, and there's that loss of it. So I think it's more important, critically important, that we find ways of reconnecting and reestablishing and checking in once in a while and saying, you know, I'm
Hey.
still here, and you know, there's somebody on the other side of that wall, and I still want to connect with you and know in any way that we can. So yeah, let's touch each other. Let's reach out and find ways of communicating with you, even if it's once in a while.
Well, that's why we started our group in the first place back in March.
Sure.
Like we wanted to connect with like our friends and have
and
a
let
party.
our friends connect with their friends and so on.
Yeah,
and so
connect
forth.
everybody together. So that's really how this started, with a really small group of people. Our TNA group started with a group of people just because it was easier to collect people in a Facebook group, and we could plan a Zoom party and get everybody together in one spot and let them know. And then it's kind of grown from there. So, you know, that's one way we've been able to keep connected with some people. You know, during the times here in Toronto where there's been where there's been slight openings, you know, we did a bit of connection with people after everyone having tested. That was really amazing.
Right.
But just trying to staying in touch. But yeah, I feel it too. I feel a bit of a loss in seeing all our friends. It's been so long. I think the last time we saw everybody in person, like the bigger group, was like back in February.
A long time ago.
February.
A year ago. Feels longer.
The fetish party, the Northbound Leather fetish party, where
But
we
you
saw
know-
Natalie perform, which was amazing.
Oh yeah, that was fantastic. But I'm already looking forward to what we have planned in the future. When things open up, we're gonna plan an erotic, exotic, fuck away getaway.
Fuck away,
So
getaway.
the big question is it Mexico? Is it in Greece? Is it, you know, all those places? How about Iceland?
Iceland.
Crazy place. No, I think warmer weather yields more nudity. I think we'll go
Somewhere
someplace.
warm.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
All right. What do we got?
One more question
One
here.
more question, and we got to wrap it up.
So this is a good question as well. This, I think, came up slightly in our last one. My wife and I are trying to be discreet as we begin to wade into ethical non-monogamy. We have 2 kids, aged 2 and 8, and haven't talked to the oldest one about this yet, as they apparently have loose lips and it would get all over town. At what age or under what circumstances do you think we should be more open about it with them?
Wow.
So, big question. Kids, you know, pretty young kids, 2 and 8. The 8-year-old, loose lips. So, you know, we had a bit of a chat of this in the car because we were trying to figure out, like, because we don't have children, so, and we don't profess to know all the answers to everything. We're just giving like our perspective and, you know, from what we've learned, you know.
Right. So what did we come up with?
I think
the first thing I wanted to know was 8 years old, 2 years old. I'm not really well versed in child psychology, but what is my motive in wanting to tell my 8-year-old? And I don't know what their intellectual capacity is. I think that 8-year-olds are pretty young in general. But if it is that I'm going to go to a sex club or a sex party, I don't think that the kids need to know. But if I'm having a third or fourth or 10th partner come into the relationship, and to what degree are they coming in? Well, I think that then makes for different considerations, right? So if you and I, say, for example, had a 2 and an 8-year-old and we were nesting partners and we're bringing in a third who is going to
also live here,
come in quite frequently, well, are they becoming my new daddy, or are they bringing Legos? Are they, you know, what's the level of involvement? And then it might need to be addressed. But hang on, what somebody said, here's my take. Do you tell your 8-year-old about your sex life? Anyway, no, exactly. I would not be telling my 8-year-old about it. However, again, I came from a very progressive family, and sex was talked about in a very broad sense. So the idea that we were Homo sapiens who were sexual creatures was just matter of fact. But at no point were my parents telling me, you know, the intimate details of their going on. Just that when I was to be, you know, I think I always knew that there were this egg and sperm kind of thing that were going to come together and make babies and all that good stuff. And it was just spoken of in a very matter of fact kind of way. But it was also told to me that my sexuality was a gift to me, and that I was to be honoring it, and that your sexuality was a gift to you, and I should honor that as well.
That's a really great way of saying it.
Yeah, for sure. So love, who you're with, and take that. But I think it really depends on what are the circumstances. So what's your motive in wanting to address this, right? So I like the idea that we start off early and we normalize the position of sex and sexuality, but at the same time, I think that it has to be age appropriate. There's a lot that young minds don't understand yet, and would kind of be burdened by if they knew or had these considerations, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it is a changing world. So they might have coloring books that have a mommy and a daddy, but that's not the only form. You could have 2 daddies or 4 daddies and 1 mommy, or God only knows what it is. So, speak in broad terms, and then as they progress, maybe get a little bit more into it.
Yeah, so I guess the question is, like, when are you going to be introducing a discussion about sex in general and relationships, and wanting to have an open dialogue with your child about sex and the physicality, but also the different types of relationships that people have, and the way people identify, and like all these discussions. Like, these are, you might want to have those discussions first, I think, before you have the discussion about your particular relationship. Unless you're bringing someone in to live there. But honestly, like, some kids would be like, oh yeah, I'm happy they're here. Like, are they going to bring me some toys? Like, are they going to be fun to play with? They might be less thinking about, like, oh, it's going to be, who is this stranger?
Right. They care less about the political or sexual components than about, what their quality of life is going to be like as far as toys and being able to get away with things. Yeah. Any other parts of that you want to mention?
I didn't think so. Yeah, we were just talking about, like, depending on the circumstances and, what you're going to be introducing to them, and, just waiting until you're ready to have, like, the full conversation with them about sex and relationships and the different types of dynamics. I think and we already said that.
Yeah, and again, the disclaimer, we don't have children. I don't know anything about anything. But Jeff, thank you so much for your comment, Jeff. How old
would you tell
your sex life? So,
my parents are quite different than yours. Like, they didn't talk about sex at all. I don't think my parents had sex, whereas Andre's parents, a lot different.
I think your parents had sex at least twice.
At least twice. But your mom still talks about it, and I think it's funny for me, even at this age. I get a little uncomfortable sometimes because I'm like, ooh, I don't know.
Yeah, by now it's like so matter of fact, so blasé. I mean, the other day she asked me. She had told me that one of my cousins had seen some type of picture or post about me where, and in her words, like, where Andre, you were giving somebody a blowjob. And I was like, so, yeah, they figure it out. Of course they'll figure it out. Kids are, we didn't invent this stuff. We've been doing this since, we crawled out of the water.
I don't even think my parents had a sex talk with me. I honestly don't remember it.
Right. No?
No.
So you just figured it out on your own. Something you heard in the schoolyard, some misinformation?
I think Victoria Tracy showed me with our Barbies. I think that's how I learned.
She demystified it for you. Well, that's usually how we get it, right?
I remember there was a light under the chair, and Ken and Barbie were laying on top of each other and going like this. I don't know. And I was
going like this. Like, we gotta try that tonight. I like that.
Do you want to do some Ken and Barbie?
I was clapping.
We can call it the Ken and Barbie.
I'm Barbie.
Okay.
I got Barbie. I called Barbie.
I want the little hump like Ken. Okay. Enough silliness.
Our producer is giving us the time signal. We've gone over.
Have we gone over?
We have. We're gonna have to.
Okay.
I think
one more question.
No, I think it's gonna have to wait till next year. All right. One quick question.
Okay. This is a common one that we get asked, so we want to add. We want to add this one in. So, if we've decided we're maybe partnered couple, and we've decided that we want to consider opening up our relationship, thinking about polyamory, what are the first steps we want to do?
You know my answer. What would I say?
Well, communicate.
Right.
The first thing to do,
talk.
I think we've already said this answer. I feel like it's the answer to everything.
It is.
Is First, my advice would be is to first figure out your own wants, needs, desires, and motives, like what it is you want out of it. I think sometimes people come into it because they do want to increase their desire, or they have a particular motive like that. Which is fine, but if there's an underlying issue, I think, in the relationship, that may be something that you might need to deal with first.
So you're talking about the motive there, right? So
That's
is there something that's going on in your life or in your relationship that you feel is insufficient, and do you think that opening it up is going to somehow fix it or cure it or make it better? It might, but it probably you'd be better off if you would address those first issues.
Yeah, because I think it, especially if you're not communicating with each other, if that's one of your issues and why you're having troubles, opening up your relationship is not going to make that better. Or it could force the issue of having to communicate.
Sure. But the thing is, how do you introduce your desire to that, right? How are you able to make that happen? And I think one of the best ways is you might start by introducing it with humor. Humor is always fun because that way you get to feel the temperature in the room, and if it's not quite right, you can kind of laugh it off a little bit. But I think also using fantasy, right? So if you are at play and you kind of introduce some little idea with somebody, might they get tickled by it, excited by it, and then you're like, well, maybe we could think about making that fantasy kind of happen. So that might be fun.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but understanding what it is you need and want out of it, and then having that, like we said, discussion together about it, where those needs and desires overlap. Good segue to the fact that if you are having, you're talking about opening up your relationship and need some support in that, this is something that we do.
We do. Or other issues that you might be having.
Or if you already are and you're experiencing some issues.
Want to improve your quality of life and relationship? Whatever it may be.
We are here to help. So, with that, I think that's pretty good. So we will post this, well, if you're watching this and you're watching it live, but if you're watching it later, you're watching the replay, I don't know. Anyways, we'll make sure this is in the group, and please ask any more questions.
And we'll see you again
next month.
In a month. Yeah.
Yep. So watch the group, and we will post the date where we're doing it. And like I said, if you need support, feel free to reach out to us. I will put the link on how you book a one-on-one call with me. It's free, and we can talk about where you are in your relationship and where you want to be, and then go from there.
Sounds good.
So thanks. That was fun, Andre.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Thanks. And thank you all for watching, those who are live and those who are watching the replay. Have a fantastic Friday. Thanks, Jennifer.
Namaste.
Bye, everyone.